Have you ever felt an unexplainable urge to create, research, or make something? Well, this video is exactly that for me.
Why did you do this?
It's about the filming locations of planes, trains, and automobiles. I wanted to see where it was filmed and what it looks like today. I wanted to stand where John Candy and Steve Martin stood, and I can't really explain why. It took me 2 or 3 years to complete. These are the filming locations for planes, trains, and automobiles. I grew up in the 80s, but this is not a movie I ever saw until very recently. Something about it struck me, whether it was the chemistry between John Candy and Steve Martin, the way the film looked. I mean, it was shot on film. It looked like it was shot on film. Largely, all the locations are real places and not sound stages. It felt authentic. And in the artificial world we live in today, I wonder if a movie like this could even exist.
Give him the goddamn glove!
So I got in the car. I hopped on a plane. I got near some trains, and I hit the road. First up was Manhattan, where Neil Page battles Kevin Bacon in order to find a taxi cab. New York filming locations are always tricky because the city changes so much so quickly. This was recorded on Park Ave between 57th and 55th Street. And it seems the way they shot it, they really followed the path from 57th to 55th. Obviously, anything in Manhattan over the years just changes so drastically because the city's ever evolving. Next up was the Braidwood Inn Hotel, about 2 hours south of Chicago. I've seen other videos where people complained about the hotel and said it was creepy and eerie. I didn't think it was that bad, and maybe that's because I went in with really low expectations. But it seemed like a normal hotel to me. I got a lot of shots outside, and then I decided I should go inside and try to see if I could get into that same room. So I went inside and just started filming, and the inside has changed, but not in a long time. And the hallways have changed, but not that much. The water fountain's a little different, the carpet might be different, the paint on the walls, but not a huge change. Even the layout of the main lobby is still technically the same without the counter being where it was. I mean, this soda machine may have been there back when they made the movie. And there's all little nods to the hotel's history and the fact that the movie was in fact filmed here. Thanks to one of the people who work there, I was able to see a room that is comparable to what Neil and Del stayed in. Unfortunately, the one they occupied was occupied at the time, so I wasn't able to see that specific room, which just drove me nuts. I wanted to get in that room so bad, but unfortunately somebody was there. They even offered to call them and see if we could go in. Unfortunately, they weren't answering the phone at the time. And this room was 2 doors away. And this is where the famous shot that is on most of the VHS and DVDs, it was taken right here in front of this rock wall here, now known as the Sun Motel.
Between 2 pillows. Those aren't pillows.
But as I was leaving, it didn't sit well with me that I wasn't able to get into the specific room. So I hit up the guy that I met, who actually was operating and running the hotel, and he was able to send me these photos, which are inside the room, and you can see it pretty much looks exactly the same. The next location was one I wasn't sure that it actually existed. It took a lot of research, but I visited the Olympia restaurant, and I couldn't quite match up which scene it was from until I spoke to the people who work there. And they let me know exactly which restaurant scene it was out of the 2. And they even showed behind the scenes photos that they had hanging on the walls. Now, the restaurant has been redesigned a little bit over the years. So where there once was a long bar, it's kind of almost like a zigzag bar now. So it's changed a little bit. But the people who worked there assured me that, yeah, it was certainly filmed here, and the memorabilia on the wall also attested to the same fact.
Any way you slice it, the odds are we're going to be having our turkey roll right here.
Next up was the train station, and these train stations really gave me a lot of grief. I actually visited 3 separate train stations in order to find the right one, and all 3 of them looked exactly the same. But I was able to match up the shots and see that this is actually the correct one. In fact, in some of the shots, you can even see this building in the background. It's been added on to, but it still is there. I think it was being blocked by that building right there. And this for sure is the location. Again, another thing that's just been remodeled in the 40 years since the movie was made. One of my favorite shots in the movie is where the train's coming through and the music is playing. And it's just, the whole movie's just got this great pace to it. And this scene is definitely a part of that good pacing. It just comes at the right moment where you just need a break from the action. It's a nice shot. It's got good music behind it. As I said, I went to multiple train stations, and one of them was in Gowanda, New York. And this actually had the original trains that they used for the making of the movie. Now, obviously the trains are all rusted to hell, but they invented a fictional train company. And I couldn't quite get up there. I didn't have a ladder or anything like that, so I stuck my camera on a long tripod and tried my best to get inside and see what it looked like on the inside. And obviously it's been vandalized and beat up quite a bit, but this was the actual train car that they used for the film. Next up was St. Louis, and this was the rental car station. And it took me forever to figure out where this was filmed. Everything online said the location doesn't exist anymore, and that's true to a point. But I was able to get close enough using the details, such as the hotel in the background and these 2, I don't even know what you would call those things, the 2 towers there, and was able to figure out that I was roughly in the same area. I couldn't quite get over. I needed to go a little further right, but that was generally the area where that was filmed. At the St. Louis airport, I was told by somebody who worked there that this, as you exit the sort of the area where you go off for parking and everything like that, that was the actual location where Steve Martin fell down the hill. I don't know, because it doesn't really match up to the shots, but the guy who was working there is an older guy and said he remembers them filming there. Now, I don't know if they filmed that same scene multiple times or what the deal was, but he swears that that's where they filmed it. I'm not really too sure. I mentioned earlier that the first hotel I went to was not scary at all. I saw some comments online that said it was scary, and it certainly wasn't. This hotel, however, was.
You get your own room. The major credit card.
I just got weird vibes the entire time I was here. I was able to get into the office, no issue, just walk right in. Nobody was there. I tried knocking on that door, nobody answered. But it looks To me, it looks exactly like it would have looked back when the movie was shot. I'm very glad that the outside facade of this hotel has kind of been kept the same. It just looks really cool. I just wish I could have seen the inside of one of these rooms, but you know, maybe another time it'll work out. It just didn't feel appropriate to just randomly knock on someone's door on like a random Tuesday. And like I said, it started to feel a little weird there. I knew it was time to get out of there.
Reverse!
Which brings us to the courthouse, which, you know, it's a courthouse. It's a municipal building now, I think. And it looks, you know, like you would expect. It looks exactly the same as it did when it was filmed. Now, this whole area was also used for Groundhog Day. And this is the scene where Steve Martin gets picked up in the truck. And it just looks like a cool downtown area. And not terribly different from how it looked years ago.
Can't sit up there. Where are we supposed to ride?
I wish I could have found this location. This truck just driving. Again, one of my favorite scenes, just kind of a throwaway. And it's just the music, and then it comes at the right point in the story. I wish I could have found some of these locations, but just not knowing the area, there's no chance I was going to be able to find it, and I couldn't find any information about it online either.
It's been a hell of a trip.
Sure is.
And then lastly, the final shot was, of course, arriving back at Neil Page's house in downtown Chicago. I don't know what I really learned in this whole trip, but when I look back, it was just a lot of small locations that I would have never seen otherwise if I didn't have this movie and I didn't have this need to create this weird YouTube video. And I can't help but be grateful and thankful that I was able to see all these spots with my own eyes.
You are one lucky guy, Neil.
And now it's almost Thanksgiving, which means it's time to watch the greatest Thanksgiving movie of all time.
I know what you mean.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Well, thank you, F-lead butthole.